We all know who Steven Seagal is, or we should by now. He is a Aikido master, and he's also an actor. At one time, he was even a police officer. So now that you know who he is, briefly, getting to the martial arts side of Steven Seagal's life, not going into a whole lot of detail about his beginnings and so forth. Let's assume that most people watching this video know of and know about Steven Seagal. My question to you is this. With all of the controversy about his teachings and how he learned Aikido in Japan and so forth over the years, and he's gained weight, and we all know this. But let's go back some years to the young Steven Seagal. Do you believe that Steven Seagal could have given Chuck Norris a run for his money? A young Chuck Norris. So if we go back, let's say 30 years in Chuck Norris' life, 30 years, even 40 years in Steven Seagal's life, who would have won had they came up against one another? Would Chuck Norris have beaten Steven Seagal fair and square, unanimous? Or would Chuck Norris have had a problem with Steven Seagal? A young Steven Seagal and a young Chuck Norris. What do you think? I personally, just from growing up in the martial arts for the most part, being in it the majority of my life, I believe during that time, 30, 40 years ago, at their age back then, I believe that Steven Seagal would have given Chuck Norris a hard way to go. Now today, fast forward, if Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal were relatively healthy today at their ages now, I think Steven Seagal would probably have an advantage of Chuck Norris on him, rather, because of his size and his weight and his Aikido prowess. Chuck Norris, I don't know how well he's doing now as far as his kicking and punching is concerned, but I do know that he stays in shape. He trains all of the time, and he's still advertising the NordicTrack. He's been doing that for many, many years. So Chuck Norris is a very good martial artist. Steven Seagal is a very good martial artist. But if they were to engage in a sparring match, I do believe that Steven Seagal would have beat the young Steven Seagal would have beat young Chuck Norris back in the day, and I believe that the older Steven Seagal would beat Chuck Norris today because of the weight advantage. Now, while I'm on that, the weight situation, I do believe that martial artists should always look the part. I don't care if you're older. No martial artist should be packing around an extra 100 to 200 pounds on their frame, even at 6 foot, 6'2". That's too much weight. And what you're doing is causing your heart to have to work harder to pump blood throughout the rest of that body tissue, if you will. So Steven Seagal, for whatever reason, I'm not going to be the fly on the wall and say I was there and saw him go through his emotional whatever throughout his life, or what the reasons are why he gained the weight. But I can say this, just from observation, it is unhealthy. You don't live very long. Now, if you are touting to be an Aikido master, a karate master, a judo, jiu-jitsu master, what have you, and you have a beer belly, a substantial beer belly, you're packing all of this extra weight on, you need to really question your profession. You need to really question your status as a martial arts instructor. It doesn't mean you don't have knowledge up here. And you may have been a great champion and even fighter back in the day. But back in the day should be reflective from your life today as well. It just simply should. You should be an older, graceful martial arts master, not one that's out of shape, who can't climb steps without being out of breath. And I'm not saying that to beat up on Steven Seagal. I'm just saying most people that I have known who were in that same physicality, if you will, as martial arts masters, and I've known some who have died of mass heart attacks who were extremely overweight. Personally, I've known some. So that's it. And really, that's all. Who do you think would have won in a fight back in the day? The young Steven Seagal against the young Chuck Norris, and even today, the older Steven Seagal against an older Chuck Norris. I'm interested in knowing what your answer would be. I'm out.